Hey everyone, and welcome back. So now it's time to look at the new Nintendo Switch and Switch 2 games for this week. Now, after a pretty quiet week last week, it's really nice to see that this week has actually quite a few really good releases in it. Now, we're going to be jumping into the games. I just always like to warn ahead of time, if any of the trailers get muted, it's simply for copyright reasons. Now, as we jump in, don't forget that if you do like the content, hit that like button. It helps support the channel. And don't forget to subscribe if you aren't already. So we're starting out this week with our first game that is actually our only game that has a dedicated Nintendo Switch 2 release, which is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4. Not only that, but this game is also having two different release dates, because if you decide to pay a little bit extra and pick up the deluxe version, you actually get access to it on July 8th, most likely by the time you're watching this video. However, if you want to pay only $49.99 because you don't need the deluxe inclusions, you do have to wait till July 11th. Now, we will be looking at the trailer only once for both the Nintendo Switch 2 and Switch 1 versions. And by the way, the games are priced the same on both consoles. Now, if you're not aware, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, well, yes, is a skateboard game where basically you have to run different courses, hit a certain number of points, tricks, and different side missions throughout each one of the games. Now, we did get Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, which was an excellent port to the Nintendo Switch. So I'm really hoping that 3 and 4 follows along the same lines and really delivers a great product. Let's take a look at the trailer and see what it's looking like. So visually, I'm looking forward to seeing some in-game engine gameplay, some in-engine gameplay like this. Or is this still... No, it might still be some cinematics here. Here we go. So we're seeing the original with the remake, one after the other, and the remakes actually look like a pretty good facelift here. New soundtracks, most likely, because a lot of the original music was copyrighted and the license have run out for the original music, so we're going to be getting different tracks.
Attention passengers, face planting of tile is strictly prohibited.
But ultimately, these games are a ton of fun. If you like just like picking up a game that you can drop a few hours into here and there, have some fun with, the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series has always been great entries for that kind of gameplay. So as I said, they are doing the dual dated releases here, with one game releasing on the 8th and the other one on the 11th. I'm going to say it right away. You know, I'm not a huge fan of early access. I really don't like when companies do that. But you know what? It is what it is. I personally would say it's not, if you're only looking at playing the game earlier, it's really not worth investing the $20 extra. Look at the extras that come with the deluxe pack. If you're interested in those, then of course drop the cash. But if not, just wait till the 11th. It won't diminish your fun with the game overall. So that's our first game for this week, and the only game for this week that really has, like I said, a dedicated Nintendo Switch 2 version. But we're far from done, because we've got a pretty good lineup of Nintendo Switch 1 games coming out. Now we're going to jump into our second one, which is going to be Missile Command Delta, which is releasing on July 8th and is going to be selling for $19.99. Now, by the way, regional equivalents will be up above. I forgot to say it about Tony Hawk, but you should already have seen them on screen. If you're living in a different region, just check it out. All the prices are up there. Now, Missile Command Delta is a reimagining of the Atari property that we all know, Missile Command. Now, this one really seems to be trying to inject a storyline and some really like tense action sequences. I'm not sure how this is going to work out, but I'm willing to give it a chance because a lot of these Atari remakes are actually delivering some pretty fun games. Although they might not be huge budgeted games, they are generally a fun time, and they're also priced pretty budget priced because this is only $19.99, $20 for a brand new game. Not that bad, especially from a recognized company with a pretty iconic IP. Now, let's take a look at the trailer and you can tell me what you think about the game. By the way, you can always leave that down below in the comments. I love seeing what you guys think of these trailers. So they're really leaning into apparently the strategy gameplay here, with really trying to develop like a storyline around it and having really big strategy decisions to be made at different levels. It is really weird sometimes because these different IPs were really like traditional old school arcade games. So it's really funny sometimes to see how they're trying to evolve them into like these modern gaming formats, while having them still feel somewhat like Missile Command. Like you can see this is pure Missile Command gameplay. So basically, if you've never played Missile Command, the original one, missiles are falling against like your base at the bottom of the screen, and you have to intercept all the missiles and blow them up before you get damage, basically. Now there's going to be puzzle gameplay here. Like honestly, I'm pretty interested in trying it out. And this is actually the second Missile Command remake that they made, because they made another one that is very like arcade feeling. This one is really the one that they're trying to go a little bit out there and push the IP in a different direction. Nonetheless, looks pretty interesting, and you know, maybe wait for a review or two, because at $20, it's not an expensive game, but it's not a very cheap one either. And I'm thinking this one could go either way. Next, we have a game series that I'm actually a pretty decent fan of, and we're getting a sequel, which is going to be Islanders New Shores. Now, this game is releasing on July 10th, and it's going to be selling for $9.99. Just to let you know, however, there is also a free demo on the eShop, so you can actually try this one out before jumping in. Now, Islanders New Shores is basically, it's a casual city builder, and it is really a relaxing and fun game with a beautiful evolution and really some nice graphical and musical surroundings. Like it's one of those cozy games, but yet at the same time, you really have to actively participate in, and it delivers a really fun experience if you just want to lay back and chill out. I'm really love the first game. By the way, it's only $5 at full price on the eShop right now. So if you haven't had the chance, you can pick it up. There's also a double pack with the new Islanders and the old one coming out. So you can always check that out on the eShop as well. But let's take a look at the trailer. You'll see right away, if you're into casual city builders, this is definitely one to check out, especially at the budget prices they're releasing these. They are a ton of fun and a ton of value for the money. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the new ways to play are. So it's like a mix of city building and strategy. Like you'll have certain objectives and point scores to meet, depending on how you build your cities and whatnot. And like I said, the music and the visuals are really appealing and relaxing at the same time. Oh yes, I saw this. This is an additional pack you can buy that gives you like these different visual effects on the gameplay. I'm wondering if they're unlockable in game or if you really have to purchase them separately. I've got to say though, for the budget price they're selling the game, buying the extra visual packs doesn't feel bad, especially that this is a developer that I would like to keep supporting because they really are making simple quality games and they're not pushing the prices to crazy levels. Like they could have probably gotten away with more expensive than this, but I respect the fact that they're releasing it for only $10 here. So if you're a fan of casual city builder strategy games, definitely keep an eye on Islanders New Shores. I'm pretty sure that this game is a like safe no miss game for this week. Next, we have a game that I am interested in, but I'm sort of on the fence on once again, and that is Bad End Theater. Now, seems to be a very narrative-driven game where you have to make various choices overall, which will lead to different endings. And really, the whole idea behind the game is to keep replaying it over and over again to try to unlock or experience all the different endings, with most of them being pretty bad for the characters in the game. Now, this game is going to be releasing on July 10th, and is also selling for $9.99. So once again, not a very expensive game, one with an interesting premise, but I'm really wondering how it's actually going to shape out and feel. However, the developer is the same. They've developed multiple other games in the same narrative genre, most of them being pretty high quality. There's that game with the kill the princess thing where you have to basically, you play a person that has to you go into this cabin and kill a princess. Totally funky storyline, crazy gameplay. So I'm willing to give them a chance to see if they really can deliver again on a pretty original experience here. Slay the princess. Thank you. My chat has just corrected me. It's not kill the princess, it's slay the princess, and you are totally right. So you have to choose the actor that performs the tragedy, and we're going to direct the play. And I'm sort of liking the pixel art presentation here. Just how much can they endure? Like I said, we don't get to see too much of the gameplay, but it does look like a really out there, interesting concept for this week. If you're a fan of narrative-driven games, I definitely think this one should be a really good consideration, especially for the fact that it's a pretty budget game. So that is Bad End Theater. I don't think there's much more I can say about the game at this point because we really have to play it to see if it's worth it and to figure out more about it. Okay, next, we're going for a game that I had to showcase, although I'm extremely doubtful whether it's going to be an actual good game or not. But if you're a fan of the channel, you know that one of the main people here at the channel is Topaz my cat, and therefore every funky game with cats as main protagonists, we're not talking about those cheap ones, but this, like the funky ones, I have to talk about. And this week we're getting a brand new one called Cats Away that's going to be selling for $29.99, also releasing on June 10th. So it is a pretty expensive game as well at $29.99 for an IP that I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be delivering. But you're basically going to play as pirate cats. And no, this is not Cat Quest 3. This is a totally different style of gameplay. You have to build a crew of pirate cats, and you're going to have ship battles. You're going to have different elements. It actually looks like it could be a crazy fun game, but at the same time, I have my doubts whether the quality is going to, live up to expectations. Let's take a look at the trailer. Once again, I don't think there's much more I can say about this game.
Way! The real-time strategy game of naval warfare. Recruit a crew of adorable cats And get your ship kitted out.
The graphics actually look pretty decent.
Pounce on pirates.
Not
Sail to
crazy,
dark
but
ports of
decent.
old and meet handsome rogues, exotic beauties, and even more feline friends. Get all paws on deck or cats away. Coming soon.
So unfortunately, we don't get much to view of the gameplay. And that's where I said I was a little bit worried, because generally if your gameplay is what you're trying to sell your game based on, you're going to showcase a good deal of it. In this case, we're getting only small little glimpses, but it seems to be a naval warfare based game with a strategy strategy direction to its gameplay. But I think it's banking a lot on the whole cat concept. So if you're a cat lover like I am, this is maybe one you're going to drop a few dollars on and see if it's worth it. However, I can also see the argument for definitely maybe waiting for a sale or some reviews. So there we have it, Cats Away, releasing on July 10th for $29.99. Now, we're going to jump into our next game, which is System Shock 2. Like I said, the 25th anniversary remaster. Now, this is a revival of a retro FPS game. It's done by Night Dive Studios that have done a lot of these, some to more success than others, but it's generally a company that does the best they can with the IP that they're investing in. Personally, I'm going to tell you right away, I am not familiar with System Shock. I don't know the IP, but it looks fairly interesting. It has like that gory style of the 90s FPS shooters. Let's take a look at the trailer, and I think if you're a fan of retro shooters, this one could be worth taking a look at. By the way, it's going to be selling for $29.99, and it is also releasing on July 10th. Oh, it's brought to us by Atari once again.
This place is a womb where we grow our future.
Your weapons fail. Your ammunition runs low.
And you've yet to see our most beautiful creation.
It does feel quite remastered, because I saw a few screen captures of the original, and although this doesn't necessarily look like a 2025 game, it is miles above the original. And honestly, it looks freaky enough that it actually might be somewhat scary. But I think it's going to have a much more action-focused and horror focus. Yeah, like I said, the textures look a lot smoother, and it doesn't seem like it, but overall, when you're playing the game, like you see, like it does make a big difference. I'm actually surprised I never played this game, because this seems like the kind of game I would have been super interested in 1999, but hey, we can't play everything. So there we have it, System Shock 2, the 25th anniversary remaster. Now, the one thing I'm going to say, however, $30 does feel a little steep for the remaster of a 25-year-old FPS shooter. So these are sometimes the kind of games that I also recommend you maybe wait for a sale. Like once it hits that 50% off mark or more, it definitely becomes an easy pickup, I find, for those prices. Secondly, maybe you're going to want to wait for a review, because like I said, Night Dive Studio generally does a really good job. It's more dependent on the quality of the original IP, I find, whether their games are well received or not. Like sometimes they remaster the games, but they do try to keep the gameplay pretty honest to the original. And when the game shows its age, sometimes that's where they're sometimes not received as well. Okay. Next, we have Flora and Fang, Guardians of the Vampire Garden. Now, this comes to us from Flynn Arcades and sorry, not Flynn's Arcade, Flynn Arcades, Flynn's Arcade, and it is a basically retro arcade game, but made in 2025. And if you're not familiar with Flynn's Arcade, this is what they do. And almost every one of their games turns out to be a really fun game. They've done Donut Dodo. They did the one I just played with the cows, Cash Cow. They did a lot of different, and the gameplay is always at the center of the experience. The visuals are generally retro, but the gameplay is honestly, it really feels like a long lost arcade game rediscovered in 2025. And that's what the magic of these games are. And yet again, this game looks like it's going to be delivering, once again, one of those experiences where it's going to feel like a classic arcade game, however, with a few modern tweaks here and there. Let's take a look at the trailer. I'm actually really excited for this one. By the way, it's releasing on July 10th for only $6.99. They also always release at budget price points, something I really appreciate. Now, this reminds me of... I think it's Donkey Kong 3 that had the where you had to like basically pump the like what was it, the like the bug sprayer to have him climb up the rope and hit the top. Like, it looks like a reinvention of that gameplay, and that's what they do. They generally focus on one type of old school arcade gameplay, and then they try to evolve it for modern audiences. Oh my god, that's Qbert. So I'm actually really interested in playing this game. Like I said, I've played almost all the Flynn Arcade releases, and I really can't say that one has definitely disappointed me. They're generally pretty challenging, however, I will mention. Oh man, there was a Pac-Man level. That's actually pretty crazy. Flora Fang for $6.99. Once again, if you're a fan of retro arcade games, I would say this... I'm almost safe to say that this game can't miss. I can't guarantee it 100%, but I've got a really good feeling. Okay, moving on to our next game. We have Everdeep Aurora, which is releasing on July 10th, and this one will be selling for $19.99. Now, this game, I'm going to say visually, is probably one of the games that I find the most interesting overall for the week. It is an action exploration game, narratively driven, where you have to drill down through the world you live in, and it seems to be very narrative driven, however. So it's a much more focus on the storyline than necessarily like the gameplay or the action gameplay. But I absolutely love the visual aesthetics here. Like, I'm really, really in love with this game. And once again, it seems like it could be a indie hit for this week. One of those like really silent, like killer experiences. Let's take a look at the trailer. And once again, I'd love to know what you think about this game in the comments down below. Oh, and once again, it's a cat protagonist. There's supposed to be puzzle gameplay as well, so like that'll keep things interesting and fresh. And I find it really weird that I've never heard about this game before, because normally a game like this I would have seen somewhere before, but I haven't seen this game anywhere before. So we have Everdeep Aurora. Definitely a game that I'm going to be keeping an eye on for this week. I'm not sure I'll have time to have a review code and have a review out anytime soon, but I'm definitely going to find some time to at least play it in the next little while. Now, talking about retro-inspired games, we have another one also coming out, which is Fizz and the Rainbow Planet. This game is coming out on July 10th at a much more budget price point of $9.99. Now, this almost feels like a Game Boy-inspired action platformer where you get to change between different characters, all to seem to be different dragons. Now, it's old school gameplay. It's already out on Steam. I did check out some of the reviews, and it does have generally positive reviews. People say it's a very pleasing yet short game. I want to take a look at the trailer. It looked pretty interesting when I took a look at it. And I think that if you're really into that Game Boy-like aesthetic, this could be a great pickup for this week. It's more like maybe a Game Boy Advance aesthetic than like a Game Boy Color, however. Oh yes, it's true. I forgot about that. There seems to be shifting 3D perspectives too in some of the levels. So there is going to be, see like that, there is some play with the different, like, fake 3D. Yeah, you're right. It does look, one of my chats just said it looks like Pokemon Mario, and it does look like Pokemon Mario. Even the music sounds somewhat like it. So if it doesn't get copyrighted, you guys can let me know if it... That song that just started remind me of of Pokemon Fights music. These boss fights look actually pretty solid. Like I said, I think this can be another sleeper hit for this week. Especially considering that it's like set up at a pretty budget price point where it's okay if the game is short. You know what I mean? If you spend $10, the game lasts like 3-4 hours. Personally, I never feel disappointed if I had a good time playing the game at that point. Obviously, if you pay $40 for a game and you get like 3-4 hours out of it, you might feel a little worse about it. Now, we have 2 games left for this week, and I'm keeping one of my best games for last. But just before that, we have Bendy and the Dark Revival. And I shouldn't say just before that, because I do think that this game is also one that interests me quite a bit. So we have Bendy and the Dark Revival coming out on July 11th, also for $29.99. Now, this is the follow-up to Bendy and the Ink Machine, which is a first-person horror survival game with a really original aesthetic. It makes it feel like almost like you're in a 1950s cartoon. However, where everything is where all the cutesy looking characters are killers as well. So let's take a look at the trailer. It looks really interesting. If you're into survival horror, Bendy and the Ink Machine, I find, is an underrated game on the Switch. It's not one of the best in the genre, but it's definitely worth a playthrough. And I think its follow-up just might be worth it as well. Oh, the rhythm game is coming. And we will play the rhythm game.
Another crazy deadline.
You guys will enjoy seeing me die over and over again.
What was that?
Like the first Bendy managed to be freaky.
Children of the machine. For 211 days, you've lived without the ink demon haunting your steps. I banished him away. In return, I ask just a little favor. There is a stranger. Bring her to
Like, it gives me BioShock vibes. This game always gave me like slight BioShock vibes, but with a different overall feeling nonetheless.
Thank you very much for your help.
Almost everyone here either can't speak or they're completely mad.
No one
hurt you. Looked like you needed some help.
Don't touch me.
Above everything else, stay away from the ink demon.
What's an ink demon?
He likes to smile, and he kills anything that moves.
Yeah, that's Bendy.
Nothing.
There's also like an Aliens vibe to it. Like, I know it's weird to say, but there's like an Aliens vibe to it. Oh, we still had a last AC. Honestly, I have the first Bendy physically here, and I'm very interested in playing this one. Like I said, there's too many good games right now, and by the way, when I'm saying I don't have enough time for a review, is that if you're all aware, we have a really big game coming up pretty soon with Donkey Kong Bonanza, so I don't want to line up too many games before we have a chance to play it. So that's why when I'm saying I'm running out of time is I'm trying to schedule my time. Already I have 2 reviews ready to go that haven't been filmed. And I want to make sure that I don't run into that scenario when Bonanza comes out and that we can play that game like all the way through. Okay, our last game for this week, but definitely not our least game, is probably one I'm the most excited about. However, if I play it on stream, it's going to be I'm going to get frustrated. I guarantee you guys. And that is Patapon 1+2 Replay. That is also releasing on July 11th and will be selling for $29.99. Now, Patapon is a game I actually love, but I suck at it because I suck at rhythm games. It is basically, I would say, the best way to think of Patapon is like a real-time RPG where rather than inputting commands by selecting commands to your team, you have to input rhythmed commands. So for example, if you want your team to attack, you might have to input the command of Y, Y, X, Y. If you want your team to defend, you might have to input X, X, Y, X. So basically, you have a list of commands on the screen that you have to input, but it's not as easy as that because you have to input them with the rhythm of the music. And the more in tune you are with the rhythm, the more effective your attack or your defense is going to be. Now, I'm simplifying it, but basically, and it's like a real-time RPG. So you'll be fighting bosses. You have time to react to them, but at the same time, you do have to input the command before the boss does his attack or whatnot, which is why it feels like an RPG, but a real-time RPG. And I'm definitely very excited for this game. At $29.99, you are getting incredible value here. Because if you watch this game and you get into it, this is an incredibly addictive game that's a ton of fun, and it also has an enormous replay value. So let's take a look at the trailer. I've talked about this game before a couple of times, but it is definitely, I would say, close to my top pick of the week. Dude, I'm having nightmares of the rhythm gameplay. And the crazy part is when the songs change, you sometimes have to change the rhythm you're doing.
Beloved rhythm games, Patapon 1 and 2 are back together in one bundle.
I played the first one on PSP.
Patapon 1+2 Replay. Hopelessly lost and full of despair, the Patapon sent out their bravest in search of the Holy Drum. With the legendary drum in hand, guide the Patapons as the new Mighty One to Earthend. Advance, full speed ahead. Attack, ready, aim, fire. Connect combos with various commands.
On top of it, your little guys, when they respond and they like sing the songs back to you,
The
they're so
original
freaking
fun
adorable.
is still there, but now with enhanced high-resolution visuals. The support functions are newly implemented for easy play.
Oh, damn. I actually might be able to play the game. They put difficulty
And
levels in.
mysterious Patapons. Let's make some noise for Fever Time.
For all of you who are maybe new to the channel, I'm
We're
terrible at
waiting for
rhythm
your
games.
drum
Okay,
tone.
so that's the running gag, is that I'm freaking terrible at rhythm games,
Patapon,
which is
1
why if I
plus
play this
2,
online,
replay.
it's like the ultimate punishment. But it's a good punishment because, like I said, I love playing Patapon, but I sometimes love things that I'm terrible at, and Patapon would be one of those. So honestly, I think this is like definitely a game that should not be forgotten. I'm scared it will be with all the other major releases in July, but definitely the value is incredible here also at the release price. So that was pretty much it for the new Switch and Switch 2 games for this week. Like I said, I'd love to hear your comments down below. Let me know what you think of the games. Let me know what was your favorite of this week. What was maybe the game that worries you the most for this week. And as usual, on the way out, don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe if you aren't already. Click on the notification bell. And as usual, I'll see you in my next video.